Hello, I'm RedactedNPC. This is my second attempt to record this because I had some kind of crash. Fortunately, this episode breakdown will take about 10 minutes, maybe less, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. This is going to be the final episode breakdown before I am out of excuses for why I'm not working on Vegeta Speedruns the Buu Saga, but we will talk about that more at the end. I drew the thumbnail for this myself, and I'm not going to bother drawing a new thumbnail for this episode breakdown. I'm just going to slap on episode breakdown on the text, a text on top of this, so there's not going to be a speed paint for this one. But all I did, I went and I typed in anime chef bald, and then I typed in Jogo, and I just overlaid Jogo's head on top, and then I traced it. Then I went and I looked up anime kitchen empty, and I traced that. So pretty straightforward. I made this because usually after I watch an anime episode, I'll go and I'll read the episode discussion because people will talk about things that I might have missed or not noticed, such as references or production issues or why something happened. Anyway, at that time, a lot of manga readers kept commenting saying, "Stand proud, you can cook, stand proud, you can cook." Apparently this is a meme from this scene in the manga, so I saw a lot of people. I went to Jujutsu Folk, which is a manga spoiler sub, so be careful if you care about spoilers. But I went there and they were talking about this, so I said, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and take a crack at this. You can see the VOD for this on my VOD channel. It took me about an hour and 20 minutes, and part of that time was just me trying to figure out what I wanted. So I made this basically in about an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't really take any time to think about the script. I just knew that I wanted Jogo and Sukuna to be talking, and I wanted Sukuna to say, "Stand proud, you can cook." So we'll talk more about it in just a moment, but I had to try and think about why, like the context around that. The only other thing I'll mention is that originally the audio for this had very soft music in the background, so it was pretty easy for me to remove and use the voices, which is good because I don't have a cache of voices for Jujutsu Kaisen like I do for Dragon Ball. So again, I didn't spend a lot of time on this script. You can basically see me thinking of it as I'm making it in the VOD, but I knew that I just needed Sukuna and Jogo to talk, so I decided it to be one of those toxic friendships where there's that one person who's constantly making mean jokes and saying rude things, and when you call him out on it, he's always like, "It's just a joke, bro, it's just a joke. Man, you're so sensitive." But it's funny to him, but it's not really funny to anyone else, you know? I've had friendships like that before. Obviously, I'm not friends with those people anymore, but I decided that that would be the context for this. I also debated making it where Jogo is Sukuna's younger brother, and so it makes a little bit more sense why this is happening, and these are Sukuna's friends, who are also just tolerating kid brother Jogo, but I decided to drop that because I just didn't feel like adding it. This is a 1 minute 20-second video. This isn't like my other videos where I'm adding themes and underlying messages and things like that. It's literally just a joke, so I'm not going to go and try and add too much to it. I don't want to overcomplicate it. You'll notice here that Mahito was mentioned, but again, I've cut all reference from Mahito because I didn't have any lines for him, so there's no point having him actually show up in this episode. Here I just added unintelligible because I feel like that would be funnier than anything I could have had Dagon made, and again, I didn't have any lines for him at this time anyway. Next, you'll notice that I have Sukuna call Jogo Krakatoa, and that's just a reference to SpongeBob. So one thing I want to point out is that these are actually two separate scenes right here. I just cut them together. I cut out some frames so that they flowed more smoothly. And also here, originally Jogo spends some time just looking behind him, and then he swivels around after Sukuna's done talking. But again, I needed it to be nice and fluid. Finally, I added some music from ReZero because it has some of the most iconic and well-made sad music that I've heard in anime in quite a while. Originally, I was going to have Jogo remember all the rude insults that Sukuna has given to him, and that's because you can see there's some flames that come in as he's looking, but ultimately I decided to cut that because I didn't feel like spending the time to think of some rude jokes for Sukuna to be calling him. Akechi Wannabes was added because I just finished Persona 5 Royals for the first time. I've never played a Persona game before, and one of my friends and I, we talk about how much we hate Akechi. He's a very well-written character, and his voice actor does a very good job of making him seem like an actual person. So my issue isn't with Akechi as a character, my issue is with Akechi's personality. I just don't like the type of person that he is, which just a very well-written character to make me despise someone that much. The Four White Guys with a Podcast is a reference to my quote-unquote podcast. I have some friends who I play video games with about once a week, and on my Clips channel, what I do is I record whenever we're playing, and every now and again, I will release some clips from us playing. On my VOD channel, I've been going through and editing together some of our playthroughs and throwing that out there. So the joke is that most popular podcasts seem to be four white guys with a podcast. Again, for reference, there are 3 of us and none of us are white. But that's what that's a reference to. And then Devil's Advocate is just because if you're going to list something, you need a list of 3, otherwise it sounds incomplete. Coming up, you're going to hear the music dip down. It gets quiet, and then it's going to crescendo when what I guess you could call the chorus is. I thought about adding, there's later on about a minute or maybe a minute and a half later in the music, there's a part where this happens again, but there's a lot more music. It's a lot more emotional. I decided not to add it because I wanted this to be a slow realization of emotions. I feel like this sounds better than that more hype one does. If you want to go and take a look at the music, it's called Chain of Memories from ReZero. I also made a version of this without my watermark at the bottom, and I posted it on Reddit so that people could be using. So it's a little bit difficult to see when your eyes are adjusted to the bright white background and then all of a sudden it's nice and dark here. But I noticed that the animators used Sukuna in the exact same position, the exact same part of the camera. He's a little off center to the right, the exact same amount of body. The only difference really is his expression between these two. And I thought that transition looked pretty cool, so I decided to add it. It also, the remainder of this scene is something that I kind of was in the middle of workshopping, and finally I was like, I'm thinking about it too much. So in the original, I was going to have Sukuna, the joke was that Sukuna roasted Jogo so hard that he literally died. And I was going to have him say here, oh wow, maybe I do roast him too hard, or something like that. But I didn't really care to emphasize that too much. I just threw this together as him just looking and maybe being even a little sad about how much he roasted Jogo. You'll also notice right here, there's this lady that you can see. I'm not able to edit her out. I don't have the skills necessary to do that, or I just don't feel like spending the time learning how to do that because it's such a minor thing. But one more thing. We'll take a look at this and then I'll talk a little more. So again, I thought about having Sukuna say, maybe I do roast him too hard, but in order to get that, there just wasn't enough time, I felt like, for how I wanted it to sound. So there's Sukuna seeing what he's done, Jogo getting roasted, and then the realization. So here he would have been like, maybe I do roast him too hard. Or here he would have been like, maybe I do roast him too hard. The problem is him talking here is very, very short. It's not long enough for me to... Like, he literally just opens his mouth a little bit. It's just not enough time to have a full 2 sentences, something like that. And then finally, You Cooked Jogo is, well, there's one more thing to talk about, but You Cooked Jogo is a double entendre. The title is Stand Proud, and here it completes the title, You Cooked Jogo. This is, I've done this once before with a SpongeBob meme that I did about manga readers, but outside of that, this is supposed to be completing the title, and then it's also supposed to be a joke about Sukuna literally cooking Jogo. And then the music, I have the music get muffled because I liked how it sounded during 102, Future Trunks, and then he died too. So I decided to redo it. And that's it. Now I don't have any more excuses not to be doing 107. What I'm going to do though is give myself an excuse, but I promise it's for a good reason. I'm going to just really quickly recreate 107 in Premiere Pro so that it loads faster and it's easier for me to work as opposed to keeping it in After Effects. The good news is I've already done, I'm pretty sure almost all of the visual edits except for one thing, and I am about 60% of the way through with the sound effects. I just haven't been working on it because I've been doing all of these. I wanted the episode breakdown for Vegeta Speedruns the Buu Saga to come out at the same time as it, and I just haven't had time. So, this episode breakdown was 13 minutes. I couldn't get it any shorter than that. We'll see if I can cut out a few things, but it'll probably be 13 minutes. Thanks for dropping by. Take care.